Hi everyone, Zoltan here and this is Retro PC. Now here we have the Pentium D 915 and it's running at 3.4 gigahertz. Now this was the latest I was able to keep it stable. Okay, so we have DDR1 memory 2 running at around 400 megahertz. It's like 380 or something. It's because of the FSB. I only increased the FSB because this motherboard is not capable of increasing the CPU voltage, so 3.4 gigahertz was the maximum I was able to achieve. We still have the same GPU as we had in the Pentium 4 system and an ODG2 ZS SUN card. I've tested all the games and and I run all the 3D marks from 2000 to 2006, and now I'm using burn test to see how high the temperature will go, but it stick around 53 only. I heard these Pentium Ds are running extremely hot and I already overclocked it, and still it's cold. Actually 50 degrees or 53 is not much, and I'm using the stock Intel cooler and some nice thermal glue for it, so yeah, so pretty much it. I've tested the games. I realized Prey was GPU limited, so that's why I had always like 25 frames per second. It was because of the GPU, and I just written some numbers, tested in different clock speeds, but the 3.4 was stable. Oblivion increased a little bit, like from 27 to around 34, so it's a bit better, much more playable, but the frame rates are low and up, and now it's not that good as on a Core 2 Duo, for instance. Also, Crysis runs almost the same as with the Pentium 4. I think it's not really using dual cores, so it's from 45 to 47. It's not a big increase, and also Quake 3 is limited at 91 FPS. But the great increase was in Skyrim and Fallout. Those two games are running totally same, so I think those engines are the same engines actually. So Skyrim was in the Pentium 4 system, even at overclocked at 3.6 gigahertz was around 38, and Fallout 3 in the test scenario 38, lot of NPCs and nothing else, CPU limited environment. And now with the Pentium D, it's jumped, even at 2.8 gigahertz, it's jumped to 58 in Skyrim and 62 in Fallout 3. And with the overclocked system in Fallout 3 we have 72, and in Skyrim is 59. I disabled the VSync, so sometimes I get like 70 something or 90 if you look at the floor. So I could say the most old games are not profiting from the Pentium D, but the performance is equal, so it's not worse, even if the clock rates are a bit lower. And it's a 65 nanometer instead of 90. The temperatures are really good. It's stable. And yeah, what else? Okay, but in Fallout 3 and Skyrim, which actually using the 2 cores, it's a great improvement. So the FPS are fluctuating sometimes even down to 30 and then up to 60 again, so it's not really stable but playable. So yeah, I think if you skip the Pentium D from Pentium 4 to Core 2 Duo, you won't lose too much, because for older games the Pentium 4 is enough. For newer games you should really use a Core 2 Duo So the Pentium D is not a bad processor, but I wouldn't recommend it because it's really not a big deal. It was too early for 2 cores, and the processor is simply too low for any modern game. And I wanted to test the 775 Pentium 4 3 GHz, but I realized this CPU was totally dead. But I just got the same processor with 2 MB of cache, so it's the Pentium 4 7075 3 GHz 2 MB of cache, and I will also test this CPU to see if it's better than the 478 with 1 MB cache, and how much better in some 3D marks and so on. Okay, 3D Mark scores are much better with the Pentium D in 3D Mark 2006 actually, so let me just see. Yeah, Pentium. This is our 3D Mark 2006 with the Pentium 4 at 3.6 GHz. You have a score of 891, and it was a stock, yeah. Sorry. And yeah, 2006, 1040 if you overclocked it to 3.6 GHz, and with the Pentium D you can have like 1000